welcome back to the Modern Firm Podcast. John and Darren back with you.
Hey, John.
Good to see you.
It is great to be here.
Lots of things going on in the world right now. We're gonna try to narrow it down today. It feels like every time we talk, we could talk about a myriad of things for a long time.
So we're talking about our presidential election right now? Yeah, is that what we're talking about?
I wasn't going to get specific, but lots of things to talk about right now. How about AI?
I'm not even going to say it.
You almost did.
I did.
That's all right. It's all right.
I'm not going to say it.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on before you change your mind.
Before I say it.
That's right. Well, we're going to keep talking about AI today, but in a little different context. Darren, we've talked about this for a while, and I think partially because my wife's in an accounting firm now, and like it's tax season, and she's in it.
Yeah.
And I noticed the tendency, the sort of the move to a new way of thinking about serving clients. And for my wife, it's exciting. For some people that have been doing this for a really long time, it can be scary.
What do you mean by a new way of serving clients?
The way that she is talking about their moving at Root Advisors is to less clients.
So they want to go a little deeper with fewer clients.
They want to go fewer clients that go deeper with the clients that they feel like they like to work with the most.
Yeah.
And they want to lead their clients looking forward. And in an advisory sort of way, and not just with the typical advisory products that they have maybe done in the past, but with the technologies they're learning, with how they're using ChatGPT, how they're making their business better using a better tech stack. And it feels like a more rewarding thing, at least for her and for some of the younger people that are hired over at Root Advisors lately, and it feels like there's energy. It just feels energetic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come without some pain.
It's strategy, right?
But it's just really clear strategy for the future.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about traditional accounting firms out there, and Root Advisors certainly are, Root Advisors came down this path because I came down this path with it.
Yeah.
And the path was mostly compliance.
Yeah.
Right? Reactive compliance, I would say. So, certainly there was a time when whoever called the firm, we would take them on as a client, and we would sort of do whatever they needed us to do as long as it was compliance work.
Yeah.
Right? And we were as busy as we could possibly be, doing tax returns, payrolls, client accounting, all that kind of stuff. And most firms have stayed in that model. Now, we, as a firm, years ago decided we didn't want to serve everybody and we didn't want to do everything. So we started narrowing. That was a big step, right? So we decided we wanted to focus on, certain types of work for the certain types of clients. And that was arguably revolutionary 20 years ago.
Life-changing, literally.
For sure. And we've counseled many firms to think about doing the same thing. And I think it's worked for most of those firms. I think what I heard you say is Root Advisors is ready to take, a much larger step, which is this idea of holistically serving the client or clients that they have.
Yeah. I'm not sure they've been able to articulate it that way.
Okay.
But just being close to the people that are there, I know that they care so much about their clients.
Yeah.
I think they've evolved into this question of like, what do these people really want from us?
Yeah.
Like, they're paying us. They've been good friends for a long time. We're helping them to some extent, but what do they need from us? What do they actually want from us? So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, if you break that down just a little bit, what I learned about clients is they care mostly about feeling like they're doing everything that they can do.
Yeah.
Certainly to be compliant, but also to minimize their tax liability, to maximize their retirement or exit from the business. They want to feel, and that's what I would say, they want to feel like you as a professional are holistically serving them. When I think about my concierge doc, I want him to make sure I do things that keep me the healthiest.
Yeah.
And I think this is sort of the same thing. So if we think about this idea of holistically serving a customer, man, that's a lot different than just providing compliance services.
It is.
To them. It's starting to plan, it's starting to do a whole bunch of things. And the other thing I think that's kind of interesting. So one idea is client wants to be holistically served. And the reality is that's not an infinite number of things.
Yeah.
Right? Most clients, the things that you would need to do to holistically serve them is a finite number. Now, is that number 10 things? Is it 100 things? I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably somewhere around 35 or 40 things, right? But it's a finite number. So part of what I think firms need to figure out is, one, you want to holistically serve a customer?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it look like to holistically serve them? Define that, right? So now everybody like Risha, your wife, would know what it means to accomplish what they're setting out to do.
And when I think about, this podcast is called the Modern Firm Podcast, and the idea that we would be modern, I think it does make sense to look at other industries and the way that we feel about them. You just mentioned your concierge doc. I think it's a perfect example.
Yeah.
You about convinced me to go to the same doc you're using, and I've been really looking into it. And what I'm realizing is this is not just a better version of the thing that I have had with my doctor. This is a different thing.
Yeah, it's not a better version of reactive medicine.
Yes,
it's healthy living.
And if my doctor, if my doctor right now were to be honest, he would say, my goal is to get John in and out of here as fast as I can.
Right, and heal whatever your ailment was.
Yeah, your doctor would say, I'm going to build a relationship with Darren because I want him as a customer, and I'm going to see him as a whole person all the time. Those are two different things, and they are a choice. And I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're choosing at least to pay attention to what's modern. Yeah. And this feels to me much like the healthcare industry. It's time to think differently about about our product, just about what we're doing here. What would you say we do here?
That was full. Is that office space?
Office space, yeah. What would you say you do here? Yeah, I love the conversation about holistically serving customers because it obviously as a customer that's what I want, but as a employee that's what I want to do. I want to know what it is we're doing here. Like, are we making people healthier, or are we just getting them in the door and out of the door?
So let's talk about what some of the challenges are to doing that.
Yeah.
Then, I think the first challenge is that firms are not built that way.
Yeah.
First challenge is firms are built to be reactive, compliance centric, and that takes up the majority of their time. I mean, they're healing sick people, or they're trying to make sick people better all day long, so they don't have time to think about whether you're. You
mean that from as a business model? Is that what you mean by not built for it?
No, I think that as a business model,
just from a business model perspective, they're not built right.
Right. I mean, most firms have evolved over some time. I mean, most firms aren't brand new today. And they are cranking out tax returns right now, or they're cranking out payroll tomorrow, or they're, reconciling QuickBooks transactions and producing financial statements. That's kind of how they're built. So this idea that that's going to stop, and I'm not suggesting that it should stop. So I don't think that should stop, but we can talk about how to make that different here. But the idea that you're going to all of a sudden magically have more time to holistically, define what it means to holistically serve a customer. Secondly, after you've defined it, you've got to know where that customer is at in that journey. That's a bunch of data that's currently unorganized inside of a firm. And then you have to have the tools to surface the ideas, to be proactive with those customers. If you look at where a firm's at being reactive compliance, and now we're going to say they're going to only start, holistically serving customers, that's a leap, right, for a firm. So it's going to require a strategy and planning to get there.
It's like calling your concierge doc and saying you're going to go to work at the doctor's office next week and do the same thing you've been doing. He'd be like, I don't have time to do it. I can't do it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my concierge doc has 100 patients.
Yeah.
He limits his practice. When I go there, nobody else is ever in the office. That's the way they do it. And it's just a model that he's chosen. Now, my guess is that he worked in the other model at some point, in his career.
Made a choice.
And decided he wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is not necessarily leaving your current firm and going and doing something new. We're talking about transitioning.
Evolving it.
Yeah, evolving what you have to something new. Now, I mentioned, the compliance work that's, super important. It drives the economic engine for most firms that I know. And so nobody's going to be raising their hand to say, "Oh, I want to get rid of my economic engine." So
yeah.
But I think this is where AI comes in. So the promise, and I believe this, the promise of AI is it's an assistant that can do compliance work really well. So think about, number of people inside of a firm that are maybe doing payroll. With AI, you should be able to just sort of say, this person had 13 hours, this one had 18 hours, this one had 24 hours, this one's on salary, payroll's done in the bank. You're done at that point with that payroll. And all the information can then be reported back and integrated and all that kind of stuff. Well, that starts limiting time so that the person that was doing payrolls can now start paying attention. Does this client have a retirement plan? Are we handling their workman's comp or helping them with that? What else can we be doing in the HR role to make that client feel better served than just keying in the hours? Or maybe you're reconciling QuickBooks online transactions. If those can be leveraged using AI to do that better today, all of a sudden you can start getting information about uncategorized transactions, and you're spending too much compared to the industry that you're in for rent expense, and I can start reaching out, or that whoever was doing those reconciliations can start reaching out to the customer and talking about how do they cut this expense or expand this expense or do something. So we're talking, AI, I think, is going to allow a firm to do less sort of compliance, the grind of compliance. Yeah. And level up a little bit, go up a step and be more consultative. It's not going to happen automatically. So, most people have been used to keying in payroll hours for a long time. All of a sudden, they don't know what their new job is. This is where kind of retraining comes in for team members.
Yeah. And this is why, like we always say, if you're going to lead, if you're going to create change, you've got to lead it. You can't just expect people to make the changes. And I think when I think about what it would be like to work in a place where all of a sudden there are these rumors that, even what you just said, you just tell them how many hours you worked and the money's in the bank. If I'm a payroll specialist, I just went, what?
Well, it depends on how you define payroll specialist, right? Is being a payroll specialist the person that keys the hours in?
Yeah.
Or the person that helps interpret what comes from that? Because AI, I don't think, replaces human interaction.
Yeah.
And that's what the customer really wants from the firm. They want to know that they're doing the right things. I don't know if they cared that you keyed in the hours.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're doing things well.
Yeah.
Let's take tax returns as an example. There's a couple examples of new companies being created right now where you can just really quickly drag and drop all the tax documents onto the platform, and it will go through and do the tax return and spit out really a copy ready for review, all that stuff in a matter of seconds. So the whole concept of collecting a W-2, keying in a W-2, getting a return out, and all that kind of stuff can maybe be done in seconds, but then all of a sudden it becomes about interpreting the outputs and communicating with the customer. So again, I think this is a big retraining. I don't think it's we're going to wipe away all the humans,
right,
and technology is just going to do everything. I don't think that's the way this works. I think people want to deal with people, but they do want you to be proactive, and they want you to consult with them. I mean, if all of a sudden all my health information was being sort of determined for me, let's say it's my Apple Watch and my phone and all this stuff is feeding into some AI database somewhere, I still don't understand what the outputs are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell me, this, that, or something else. I just don't understand, and I want a human.
What are the implications for
to
me?
interpret this for me? And that's what my doc, that's what I count on him for.
Yeah. And the energy that brings an accounting firm, and the staff that's there every day to have that kind of a mission instead of data entry, I think is a really good thing, especially for a new generation of workers.
I love we started out talking about Root Advisors, and Risha, I love the idea that we know that a client wants to be holistically served.
Yeah.
We know that. That's what they want. And I believe we know that firm team members want to do that. So if we start with that, then the next question is, how do we get there?
Yeah.
And we've talked about a lot of ways and things that firms can do to start thinking about getting there.
So I know we've talked about a few of those ways, but if I'm listening to this today and I just resonate with this and I decide this is what I want from my firm, what do I do first? Where do I start when it comes to saying I want to holistically serve? I know that my business model currently isn't built for this. What do I need to do?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think you start by really creating a picture, whether that's in words or, visually, and in a picture of what that firm looks like that you want to have. It's 100 X, Y, and Z clients paying us some number, and that number fuels our economic engine, and that's what we're after. So a lot of people would say, okay, that's your ideal client profile, providing these services. You can do the math. I have 100 of them. They're paying us $20,000 a year. I'm doing whatever that number is.
Yeah.
Right? $2 million a year. And that looks pretty much like this compliance firm I have over here without all the volume. Right? So you get a picture of what you really want.
Great answer.
And then maybe you come over here and you print out your client list and you say, okay, of the 100 that I need, how many do I have? What do I have to do to get, maybe I only have 30 of them, and maybe I need 70 more.
Yeah.
Maybe I can evolve some of the other clients that I have into that model. Maybe I need to go find some additional new clients. This is a process. It's not you don't start and end on the same day.
Turn a key. Yeah.
It's a process. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a great answer. It just reminded me of Covey's begin with the end in mind. I mean, it's
everything
it's in
leads
you.
back to the 7 habits.
I think after that, I think it's so much fun, and I'm thinking of a firm that I'm working with right now, so much fun if you get that picture as a leader to go find someone else in the firm who wants to share it and start building a vision for it inside your firm, which is, my wife, her firm, she can see the picture.
Yeah.
And there's this energy where you don't feel like you're pulling your team. You're with them, and they're coming along because they see the picture too.
Yeah, and a lot of this is maybe creating the picture with your team.
Yeah.
Sit down, let's have a strategy session. Let's talk about what we want, why we want that.
Yeah.
How do we get there?
Yeah.
What's our barriers? Maybe our tech stack needs to change.
Yeah.
All these things, lead into the picture that you create as a team together. And then it makes change inside the organization, whether that's leveraging AI or it's moving to a new set of technologies. All those things help you get there.
Yeah, I also just love the thought. It's just my own personal experience. I love the thought of just saying, go play with it. Go play with AI. We just found out we've got access now finally to Copilot finally, it's barely here.
Well, let's just say, I mean, Copilot is more of a description. It's not necessarily a product.
Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's
365 Copilot.
365 Copilot. That's right. You have to be really specific.
Right, because there's Copilots
all over the place.
Heard there's a Windows Copilot now too.
Windows has its own Copilot, and even a button on the keyboard for Copilot. So I
find people using the word assist and Copilot.
There's a sidecar now.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that one.
There's a whole bunch of
euphemisms. All meaning the same thing.
Yeah. But when I finally went out and downloaded ChatGPT, I thought I was going to use the free version for a while, and in an hour I was buying it.
Sure.
Because you're in it, And now I'm in Midjourney. I'm all over the place.
You're a slippery slope.
I'm a slippery slope. But I think then you start seeing this as a viable option and not as a robot that's going to replace your job. And I think just getting in and changing your
I think if you're unfamiliar with AI at any level, first step is just to get in and play a little bit. I mean, for instance, I did this session for ADP, their Accountant Connect Summit, recently, and
with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. They were there.
They showed up after me. Some would say I was pre-game.
Okay, all right.
But I used an example there, and I got some feedback from firms that they loved the example, so I'll use it here. So, if you go into ChatGPT as an example, all you see there is a prompt. Mm-hmm. And a prompt is just a question box. What do you want is what it's saying. What do you want? And so I type in there that I am a CPA and I'm working on a client. You can just type this in normal language.
Yeah.
So I'm typing it as I say it. I'm a CPA. I'm working on a tax plan for an optometry client. They're doing $2 million a year with 2 partners, and they're making about $500,000 a year. And I kind of go through the scenario. One partner has 2 children and they're 45 years old, the other partner, and so on. So as much detail as you can give it, I typed all that in. Give me a 10-point tax plan for this client.
Yeah.
And, within seconds, I have the top 10 tax planning ideas. Now, maybe I'm already doing 3 of those for this client, and maybe 3 of them are probably maybe beyond the scope of what I want to do as a firm.
Yeah.
But that still leaves me with 4 good ideas.
And what I love about it too is I thought of it initially as like Google on steroids. It's not, because I'm having a conversation. Now I can take that data and go, I don't like these 4, replace them with 4 more.
Right.
And I can have a conversation with generative AI, which is so much different than just this Google search.
Think of it like going in and talking to a partner in the firm who kind of knows everything about everything. So, there's this database.
The know-it-all.
It knows everything. And you just get to ask them questions, or her, and you get this information.
They may not have any social awareness, so you may have to filter whatever they say.
Yeah, it may not all be right, and it doesn't have to be right.
Yeah.
You can say, well, there's 3 things on this list I think that are stupid.
Yeah.
But there's 7 that are pretty good, of which I'm already doing 3.
Yeah.
And so here's 4 good ideas. Oh, by the way, you can type in, would you take these 4 and put it in a letter to the client
or a
from
PowerPoint
me,
presentation,
or a PowerPoint presentation, or an email or whatever, and reach out to them. That's the power. The things that I found, because after I left Deloitte, I created my own firm, so I sort of grew up in my own 4 walls and didn't have that incredibly smart partner to go ask those questions to. And so I found, for me, ChatGPT is validating. And it's not ChatGPT, it's the corpus almost the entire internet, right? And it's validating. It's like, I'm already doing those 3 things. Good job, right?
Cha-ching.
So great, but I missed.
Yeah.
I missed these 4, but all of a sudden it's like having a really, really, really smart assistant.
Yeah.
Sitting right there that you can ask questions to. Just start there. Take your best clients, type in their scenarios, and ask, what's the best tax planning I could do in this situation? And maybe it comes back with business ideas. Then you can turn around and ask it this, can you tell me from an individual perspective, what should I be doing? Yeah. Or imagine you're doing that tax return for a client and you're like, feels like they're paying too much in tax. I want to make sure they're doing all the right things. Type their scenario in. You don't put their name, don't put their social security number in, don't put all that stuff in. Just type in the scenario, ask the question, and it's, if nothing else, it's validating for you.
Yeah.
And if it's more than that, then you've created really good ideas to more holistically serve a customer.
Great way to end this podcast. Well, I hope you heard something today that moves you forward. Darren, you say when we talk about AI, I love this comment that, it may sound smart today, but give it a few months and we'll start real stupid.
Maybe
we start talking
weeks.
about AI. Yeah, it doesn't take long. So go investigate for yourself.
Yeah.
Go check this out. Darren, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks, John.
See you next time on the Modern Firm Podcast.